Now, 3 places in the region have secured £1 million of government funding to make streets safer and tackle violence against women. It follows the recent conviction of a Metropolitan Police officer for the murder of Sarah Everard in March, a crime which shocked the nation. The money's been awarded to Plymouth, Weymouth and Falmouth to install CCTV and improve street lighting. But while it's been welcomed, there are calls for the government to go further. I spoke to Caroline Voden, CEO of Devon Rape Crisis and Sexual Abuse Services.
Well, we keep hearing senior politicians saying, we need to understand what went wrong and we need to make sure this never happens again, and words to that effect. And I don't think it's rocket science, really, to know why these things happen and why they keep happening. I mean, like I said in the piece I wrote earlier this week, we live in a very misogynistic culture, and it's okay to be misogynistic. It's accepted, and there is a whole spectrum from what some people would just consider a bit of harmless banter right through to really serious sexual assaults. And if that behaviour is not nipped in the bud, if boys and young men are not taught that it's not okay to objectify women and to touch them when they haven't been asked to be touched, and to shout at them in the street and to call them names and to talk about their bodies and all that kind of stuff, if that isn't nipped in the bud at a young age, then it becomes embedded and they think it's okay, and that behaviour can get much worse. Now, what we never hear from anybody in any position of authority is that, A, this is not just a woman's problem, this is a problem for the whole of society, and B, we need to start addressing it. We need to look at education and prevention because we need to change the culture. And that's what we're not hearing.
And I think your charity has received a huge number of calls since the Sarah Everard trial.
It really has, yes. So in March, we saw a huge uplift in calls when Sarah's death was reported, and, it was all over the media. It was really, really difficult for people, and it, died down a little bit. And then last week, September was our second highest month ever after March this year for referrals. And we noticed a huge spike over a couple of days when hearing the statements from Sarah's family in court. I found it too distressing. It was just too much. And I think, for any woman who's been a victim of sexual violence, having that sort of constant conversation going on all around on TV and radio is really, really difficult. And people are phoning us for support. And we are overwhelmed.
What do you make of some of the so-called and widely criticised practical advice offered from the highest levels in the police? So, for instance, the suggestion that you could hail a bus if you were in that situation, or that you should be better genned up on the rules surrounding arrest.
Well, excuse me for laughing, but, you and I both live in Devon, and if you were going to hail a bus where I live, you might have to wait 2 days before a bus came past. So, not only is it a very London-centric thing to say, but it's absolutely ludicrous. And to expect a woman who is stopped by a policeman in uniform to start questioning that policeman about his credentials, it's just so out of touch, and it's insulting that yet again the onus is being put on the woman to keep herself safe.
And I seem to remember comments from a judge 20, 30 years ago along those lines, at the time being widely slated. Has much changed?
I really don't think it has. I really don't think it has. I mean, that comment about the bus was just showed. I mean, we had Dominic Raab, the Justice Secretary, yesterday, didn't even know the meaning of the word misogyny. I mean, how are we really ever going to improve this problem if we've got people at the top of government who don't even know what misogyny is? And our Minister for Women and Equalities has that tacked on to the brief of being Foreign Minister. I mean, they say that being Foreign Minister is one of the big 3 ministries of state. So how does she have time to tack on a bit of women and equalities onto the back of that? That just shows what importance they give to it as an issue.